one of the great voices of young people, not just here in the New York, New Jersey area, but really across the country, is the man I'm going to introduce next. He is the 76th president of the New York Young Republicans, won a unanimous election in 2019, was reelected twice unanimously. He is an insider for Newsmax. He is an ambassador for Turning Point USA. He is one of the strongest, most articulate conservative leaders, a rising star in our party. I hope someday we are going to see his name on a ballot, but for now, he's got a lot of work to do to help us bring in the thousands of young people that we need to turn this country around. Please welcome my friend, Gavin Wax.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is fantastic to be here in the Garden State, New Jersey, beautiful, beautiful state. And I say that as a proud New Yorker, but every now and then, coming from the city that never sleeps, it is nice to get out and breathe some fresh air right off the interstate or right off the parkway and see how things are marginally better in New Jersey. And I do say that seriously. We do look to you as a beacon because we have absolutely no lights on in our city on a shining hill. You guys, the lights are a little dim still, so it's good to see. But with all seriousness, we are in the same boat. New Yorkers such as myself, New Jerseyans such as yourselves, we're fighting against the same enemies. We're fighting against one-party rule, whether it's in Albany or whether it's in Trenton. We are fighting against the Democrat monopoly on power. And what they have done to our two great states, they have decimated it across the board in every facet, economically, culturally, you name it. We have an out-migration rate. I see more people from New York and New Jersey every time I go to Florida than I do actually in New Jersey. It's a sad, sad state of affairs. But I want to open up by thanking Bill and his team, Elizabeth, Alexandra, and Sherry for giving me the honor to speak before you today at this beautiful event, the second annual at a Seat at the Table convention. It's beautiful to see that we're organizing like this in New Jersey, showing that there is a strong conservative presence here that is willing to get engaged, to be active, and to be boots on the ground to move this state in the right direction. As Bill mentioned, I run the New York Young Republican Club. We're the oldest and largest youth Republican organization in the country, going back to 1856. And we've grown it to over 1,200 dues-paying members in the city of New York. And we're very proud of that. We host massive events, massive rallies. We were down outside of the courthouse when the news of the indictment against President Donald J. Trump was announced. We filled an entire city block, corner to corner, hundreds of Trump supporters, conservatives, and Republicans from across the tri-state area, and we activate like this on a regular occasion, whether it was our March on Gracie Mansion to protest against the vaccine mandates, or it's our annual galas that we had Bill Spadia MC last year with Marjorie Taylor Greene. We're growing the party. We're boots on the ground. We're expanding into neighborhoods that Republicans have never been before. As a friend of mine, Curtis Sliwa, says, the only Republican they see is on a $5 bill. So we're growing the party. We're pushing it to new limits, and we're seeing successes. We're seeing successes. We've had two election cycles between New York and New Jersey that I want to comment on, because we hear a lot of conservatives talk about, oh, just give up, move, leave, vote with your feet, just get out of there. They're gone. They're hopeless. You have no opportunity to succeed. And that's a defeatist mentality. That's a mentality that will get us nothing. It'll certainly never get us any victories. Democrats, they'll see a red state, they'll see a Texas, they'll see a South Carolina, and they will dump millions into it just to move it by a few points. Meanwhile, Republicans, you have elections in, say, New York, where Lee Zeldin got in the high 40s, 47% against Kathy Hochul, and then you saw here in New Jersey, you also had a gubernatorial race where you also almost came close to clinching it. These are trends that show that both of our states are moving in the right direction, and we cannot give them up. We have to fight for them. We have to fight for our communities. We have to fight for our cities, our towns, and our states, and turn them around rather than just conceding ground to the radical left and the Democrat machine. And last time I was in New Jersey for a big event, we actually got banned from New Jersey, apparently. I guess I'm breaking the ban right now. Governor Murphy came out and banned myself and the New York Young Republicans, along with Congressman Matt Gaetz, because we had the audacity to follow his own state's law in terms of gathering and hosting a political dinner. We were well within the law, and we hosted a beautiful gala in Jersey City during COVID against the madness, against the radical agenda that they were pushing. But of course, when you peacefully assemble, you're banned. But of course, if you're not peacefully assembled, they bail you out of jail, and you get to roam free and burn down the city. So it's a double standard we see all too often in this country. But the red wave did come through New York, and it came through New Jersey, and it just goes to show that we need to continue to fight, and that's why organizations like this is why conservatives in New Jersey matter, and that's why we cannot give up the fight. And the theme of this event is choose freedom, and I think 6 areas of freedom were identified: a freedom to prosper, a freedom to vote, a freedom to worship, a freedom to speak, freedom to parent, and a freedom to be secure. And I want to just touch on these topics very briefly, and you're going to be hearing them throughout the day as well. But freedom to prosper. What have we seen in the last few years, New Jersey and elsewhere? We've seen the jackboot of big government crushing the little guy, crushing the small business owner, the corner store, the small landlord, the aspiring entrepreneur. It's the most un-American thing we could see. It was with COVID lockdowns, and then it went through the ever-growing tax burden and higher regulatory burdens. It's all designed to stomp out the little guy, and it's to the benefit of only one entity, big business. Big business and big government are working hand in hand. We see it all the time with big tech, with big media, with big finance, with all these big institutions. They have a different set of standards. They're held to a different level than all the regular folks just trying to earn a living, just trying to make an honest buck every day. And the freedom to prosper has been killed. And you're seeing it. You're seeing it with the out-migration rate that I mentioned earlier. People are voting with their feet. They're leaving because they cannot find the prosperity and the livelihood that their parents or grandparents once enjoyed in places like New York and places like New Jersey. And that's a very sad state of affairs, and that is because of the one-party Democrat rule in Albany, in Trenton, that is being exported across the country. That's what they want. They want one-party Democrat rule from sea to shining sea. They don't want any competition of ideas, competition of voices, and they're attacking these freedoms on a multi-front offensive, and we see it in terms of our prosperity. And then you see the freedom to vote, which I would frankly put as probably the most important of all of them. You can't have a republic, we can't have this system that we cherish so dearly if the very institution that elects our representatives, that decides policy, that there are any questions or any doubts surrounding it. Our club, my club, was founded, partly also to fight the Tammany Hall machine. This is a thing that goes back over 100 years in American political history, these political machines and how they rig the vote, how they rig the ballot, and how they stuff the ballot. And I don't think it's a crazy position to come out and say we want common sense laws on elections, on voting. We want to clear the voter rolls. We want to have voter ID like most countries do in the Western world. And we want to work back to having an election day, not an election month like we have now. But I am going to say one thing that some may disagree with, and that's okay. We're conservatives. We can have disagreements. It's not a matter of principle, but it is a matter of strategy, and it's a matter of tactics. And we have seen progressively over the past few years that the Democrats have changed how elections operate. They expanded, like I said, from 1 day to 1 month. They allow ballot harvesting. They allow mail-in ballots. And why are they doing these things? Well, they have a massive block of voters, low-propensity voters, who are frankly just lazy. They're not that enthused about their candidates, and they don't want to get out. So what did the Democrats realize? They realized they cannot beat Republicans at the ballot box because we always win on Election Day with voters going to the polls. Almost across the country, it's a standard. So what did the Democrats realize? Well, you have to give them credit where credit is due. They're smart. They realized, well, we have a lot of voters that don't really care for us or our policies, but if we literally bring the ballot to them, if we bring the ballot box to them, we present them the box to check, they will do that. Well, let's just lower all the barriers to entry. And that's what they're doing across the country. They're ballot harvesting. They're doing early votes, mail-in votes, you name it. They have implemented all these different tactics, and Republicans have been on the back foot in districts and states that we should be winning, and we still can win. We're on the back foot because we are walking into a gunfight with a knife. They're coming prepared. They're fighting tooth and nail. And my view on this, and I hope I share the sentiments with some in the room, is that let's beat them at their game, and once we beat them, then we can change the rules of the game. But until we get to that point, if we simply complain about it, we're going to continue to lose. And they're also playing a demoralization type of campaign. They want you to think that the election can't be won, that it's hopeless, that's nihilistic. Because if you stay home, and there were a lot of Republicans that do stay home, there are a lot of Trump voters that do stay home, if we were actually to have the voter engagement, the get out the vote efforts, we would have won in New York. We would have won in New Jersey. We would have flipped even more seats. We would have had an even greater majority. So these are simply matters of tactics and strategy. They're ideologically neutral. Once we get into power, once we have a governing majority, we can change them. And then another thing to mention, and I know a friend of mine, Scott Pressler, he does fantastic work going out into the communities. Yes, round of applause for Scott. He does a great job registering people to vote, registering people that should be voting for Republican candidates, for conservative candidates to vote. And we have a problem in this country, and this is going to bleed into the next freedom, but there are 33 million Christians in this country that are not registered to vote and don't actively go to the polls and vote, despite agreeing with the positions of, say, the Republican Party or conservative candidates 95% of the time. This is an issue. Democrats, they get their voters to the polls. They will max out their demographic blocks with like huge percentages. Meanwhile, our blocks tend to stay home. And this bleeds into freedom to worship. There is a war on Judeo-Christian values in this country, a war on the church, a war on traditional values in this country, and it's sick, it's disgusting. We see it every day. And the Democrats have completely left the reservation. They've gone as far left as they can be, and they don't actually have a base of support for a lot of these ridiculous policies. It's a vocal minority that is at the helm in the Democrat machine. It is not anymore a sensible, moderate Democrat. These are Democrats that are pushing the drag queen story hour nonsense. They're pushing a radical transgender agenda. They're pushing all of this wokeism in our schools. They're trying to corrupt everything in society, and they're trying to shut down the churches. I mean, Cuomo shut down the churches, and you never thought that would happen in the United States. They are attacking the churches, they are attacking the synagogues, they are attacking the places of worship because they understand that if you have God, if you have a belief in a higher power, in a divine being, you don't need their statism, you don't need their big government, you don't need them to be taking care of every one of your problems. You're living for a higher purpose, and that's what they're trying to destroy. They're trying to destroy the Christianity that made this country great, and it's a sick thing to watch, and I feel like this is a winning issue for Republicans. Anytime they talk about what they're doing in schools, what they're doing with children, it immediately gets a massive backlash, and you see parents come out to the polls. I mean, that's kind of one of the reasons why we won in Virginia, because these are cultural issues, these are social issues that are winning issues, and we shouldn't, as Republicans, shy away from them. They're conservative, of course, but these positions weren't conservative 20 years ago. These positions were normal positions of normal people 20, 30, 10 years ago. They're the ones that have gone completely off the reservation. So we have to simply stand firm on our beliefs and principles and say, no, enough is enough. This is insane. Go home. And with that, freedom to speak. Thank you. Freedom to speak. We wouldn't be here today if we didn't have, the right to speech, and that is under attack every day. And it's not under attack by the sources we normally think of, government censorship or whatever it is. It is big business. It's big tech. They are shutting us down. Thankfully, we've had some changes on social media with Twitter, with Elon Musk, whatever it may be, but the fight is still happening. And the Democrats have approached this in a smart way. The radical left, rather, has approached this in a smart way. Oh, absolutely. You can have freedom of speech. You could say whatever you want, but we're just going to cancel you. We're going to dox you. We're going to make sure you can't earn an income. We're going to make sure you get fired from your job. You can't work in corporate America. And then what good is your freedom of speech? You have no means to support yourself, your family, or your loved ones. And that's what they've done time and time again to anyone who dares to speak out against all the nonsense that I've been listing through the course of this speech. It is designed to entrap you in a system where if you do speak, you're punished, or you're better off just staying quiet. And that's why we have a massive silent majority in this country that exists, that are repulsed by what they're seeing. They hate the direction the country is heading, and they want to see change. And they don't have a voice. So for conservatives like us, for our elected officials, for the commentators, for all the different influencers and pundits and leaders in our movement, we need to be their voice, and we need to fight back tooth and nail on social media, on radio, on television, every front of this media landscape in this media war, because we'll never have free speech if we think that these big tech companies are not working with big government to censor you. They are. This has been proven. This has come out in the filings. This has come out through the course of lawsuits. They are working hand in hand with government. We shouldn't look at them like the free market, or say just a simple business. What Twitter was doing prior to Elon Musk, what Google is still doing today, what Facebook is doing, is they are working hand in hand with government to censor views they don't like. And if they're not doing it overtly, they're doing it subvertly through algorithms and other things that will suppress conservative messaging. Why are they doing this? Because the conservative message wins. It won in 2016. I think it won in 2020. It won many more times. And yes, thanks. And in the town square, in the public forum of ideas, the best ideas win. They push out the bad ideas, and that's why you see the left never defends their positions anymore. They're incapable of defending their positions. When they go on television, they immediately just, they bow out because they can't handle any basic criticism of their ideas. So when we have equal playing field in terms of being able to debate them, to discuss ideas, we always win. That's why they shut it down online. That's why they shut it down on college campuses. And that brings me to my next point. Freedom to parent. This also ties in to the freedom to worship. We've seen a war on parents, and we've seen what our education system in this country has become. I represent a youth organization, and we're at an uphill fight, because you could grow up in a conservative household, you can grow up in a Christian household, but the second you get into college, you get into any form of higher education, your kids are going to come out woke ideologues, and that's just what you're paying for, and you're paying the bill. It's a really sick game. And this is everywhere. It's in the culture, it's in the media, and they're basically doing this Maoist move to turn your kids against you. And you're seeing this repeatedly. And it's sick and it's twisted, but why do they do it? Because the young mind is an impressionable mind. You're not going to convince someone, who's 40, 50 years old or whatever, has a long life, a family, and a business to believe in some nonsense. You're going to convince a 15, 16, 17-year-old kid in that nonsense, and they'll be the foot soldiers for this radical cultural Marxist agenda. So we need to get real. We need to look at the schools. We need to look at these massive academic institutions. We should look at their endowments, their tax-free endowments. We should look at what's going into the curriculum. We need to focus on the school choice movement and allowing parents the right to investigate their schools, to pick their schools, and to fight for their own children. Because no one's going to fight for their own children more than the parents. And if you think the government's going to do that, then just look at the last 100 years of public education in a place like New York City. It's been a disaster. It doesn't matter how much money we spend. The results have only gotten worse, and now they're getting ideological and radical. And then I'm going to end with the last point, freedom to be secure. And this comes in two senses. Secure as an individual, secure against the bullet of a thug, secure against the petty criminal, secure against the crime wave that is plaguing a place like New York, is plaguing places like New Jersey and many other cities and states across the country. We are witnessing a completely nihilistic view on crime in this country. We've never seen it before. They are placing the criminal above the victim. They are punishing victims across the country. In New York, you could have a rap sheet that goes back decades, and you'll walk out on a desk appearance ticket. It doesn't matter if you commit assault or a mugging or a violent robbery. We have career-long criminals, people with mental health issues, walking the streets of New York. And it's not just New York. It's almost every city in this country. We know how to deal with crime. Mayor Rudy Giuliani dealt with crime very easily in New York. We know what to do. It's a simple formula. We just don't have the will. And it's not a matter of policing. It's not a policing matter. It is a judicial and prosecutorial matter. The police know what to do. They know what they want to do. Sometimes they're not able to do it. And they know the tactics and the strategies that are required to get crime under control. But it is the judges, the prosecutors, and the entire legal system that are completely out to lunch, that have no interest in their constituents, no interests in protecting the common man and woman, and instead they're interested in politicized prosecution of the former President of the United States, President Donald J. Trump, on absolutely trumped-up charges that are despicable. So, with that said, folks, we have a lot of problems, but there's a lot of reasons to be hopeful. I'm very excited for the rest of this conference. It's great to see what Bill and his team have organized here in New Jersey, what's going on in New Jersey. I'm very excited for the future of the Garden State, for the future of the Empire State, and I'm looking forward to retaking our country come 2024. Thank you all. God bless you. God bless New Jersey, and God bless America.